Hey everybody, welcome back to Gun Tout in Minnesota. My name is Andrew, and you've been looking at a little bit of footage of the all-new ZeroTech Trace ED 1 to 10 by 24 first focal plane LPVO. Some of the features that I think are really neat about this: it has ED glass, extreme low dispersion. Glass gives great clarity and light performance. And I think you're going to find that this is one of the better LPVOs out there, especially at the price point. This is advertised as the best-in-class field of view at 1x. The scope gives 117.3 feet of linear field of view, which tops a lot of the other brands out there, probably all of them from what I'm aware of at this date. Really, really cool. They have their pop lock top, which is just lift to operate turrets, and there's a zero stop as well. So you have both of those accessible to you. It's great for tactical applications, maybe some sort of matches where you want to have exposed turrets, and then also some hunting applications where you want to have locking turrets. I really think these are well done. They feel fantastic. Those are going to be in 0.1 mil increments, which is exactly what I think they ought to be. It makes a lot of sense to me. That's what I prefer. So you're going to have a matching reticle to your turrets for corrections and measurements. There's a newly designed RMG L reticle, which is going to be pretty clean at 1x. You know, it kind of mimics a little bit of that red dot feel, which you probably saw some of that in the intro. And then as you magnify up to 10 power, it blows up a little bit. It's not super crowded like a typical Christmas tree would be at 10x, though. I actually think this one gives you a lot more functionality and a cleaner image, which I just appreciate all the way with the 1 to 10. It makes a lot of sense for me. Completely toolless aluminum scope caps, which is really neat. And then you have like this ability to rotate those. So if it gets in the way or you just need the scope cap covers to move a little bit, these are aluminum. They're really high quality and they can just rotate out of the way without moving or adjusting your eyepiece, which is pretty neat. It's a 34 millimeter tube. So I'm going to run through just a couple things here. This is just a first look video because I wanted to let you know about this product, that it's hitting the market right now, and that I have taken this really far, really close, which most of this video is going to be the close stuff. Next video is the far stuff, but I love it. I think it's one of the best optics out there. And one thing I forgot to mention is that this has nearly unlimited internal elevation. It has so much internal elevation, you can do a lot with this, and it's going to be awesome for my 300 blackout. As you've probably noticed if you watch my channel, I've been doing a good bit of tripod shooting lately. I'm using the HT2830 from Sunway Photo at the moment. It's a great hunting tripod. I also use the Lux gun, a couple other ones I've used, some Vanguard products as well. You see on my channel, I really like shooting off of this tripod. It's not an ultra thick one. It's not really competition minded. It's more for hunting, has the center hook, and it pairs nicely with a lighter weight 300 blackout, which I'm going to use for deer hunting. My shots are never going to be beyond 200 yards where I'm shooting at. Even 200 yards would be a stretch, and I probably wouldn't have to take that shot. A lot of times they're going to be like 75 yards and in. If I'm really good, they'll be at 25 yards. So an LPVO makes a lot of sense, and a tripod can make a lot of sense depending on which location I'm hunting out of. Sometimes on my way out to the stand, I need to be able to take some freestanding shots. I need to have this in my hands with the tripod still in my backpack, depending on when I'm going out. And I need the ability to make impacts at, let's say, 110 yards here with confidence. I need to be able to make back-to-back impacts on a 10-inch target. And this is not a very accurate platform in general. But if I can make back-to-back impacts at 110 yards, I feel more confident to take those hunting grade, you know, say like about this size group at 100 yards, fist size group at 100 yards. That's what I need to accomplish, to feel confident, to feel ethical on those shots. And if I have a deer that's moving just a little bit, I can feel that my comfort level is there, that I will actually pull a trigger. So all of that being said, I'm gonna shoot this on 6 power because that reticle works very well for it. I practice with subsonics, but I hunt with supersonics. Just for the record, okay, so I loaded up 3. I did miss on that first shot. That's why I need to practice a lot. But the LPVO doesn't hold me back. I can see quite a bit of detail at several hundred yards, and at 100 yards, I'm still gonna be shooting it on 5 or 6 power. I just don't need that much because the reticle can do quite a bit with that thicker center dot and the donut around it. On top of that, the illumination is functional, and I will be hunting with illumination. I'm almost confident this year if I go with the ZeroTech. So something that really suits me in a hunting concept rifle, like this bolt action Ruger American here in the Heat Seeker chassis, something that suits me well about an LPVO is I can run it quite low to the rail. I'm not worried about mirage. I'm not doing long distance shooting with this for the most part, although I've taken it out to 825. I'm not probably going to be worried so much about those factors. I'm more concerned about the footprint, about keeping moisture out of the optic, about not getting snagged on things when I walk through the brush, and an LPVO is incredibly hard to beat with that. At the distances I shoot, if it weren't so wooded, if I didn't have all the tall grasses, I almost could shoot with just a red dot, and I've used a lot of the ZeroTech red dots. I like them a lot. But when it comes to brush, target identification, counting tines, or trying to get a better look at a deer, I value the information a 1 to 10 can bring me, and I just don't need more than that. I'm not worried about parallax usually at these close distances. And so an LPVO is hard to beat for that factor alone, that it is a very small footprint. I can still be, pretty capable with this a long ways away. I have 28 mils with this 30 MOA rail from Anarchy Outdoors. So I can go really, really far with this with supersonics, and actually quite far with subsonics. So it doesn't hold me back from regular plinking. And then in the hunting scenario, it's just nice, it's compact. I can still dial to adjust for having whatever can I have on there. When I get to winter, it's gonna change my harmonics or my burn rate for my powder a little bit, so I will have to adjust just a tiny bit. And this has the exposed turret, so I can quickly do that on the same day. It's not uncommon in Minnesota to have temper fluctuations that go up. Let's say it starts at 15 in the morning and then it ends at 45 degrees. Sorry about that, my camera died. The heat fluctuations today are quite a bit. In fact, today it started at 47 degrees this morning, and it's gonna be 83 by the time I get home. But anyways, my whole point I was trying to get at with that little diatribe in my speech is I need a compact rifle. I don't need a heavy rifle. I don't take really long shots, but even if I wanted to, this doesn't hold me back. I can get a lot of detail. I can stretch it out really far. I can use the reticle on little targets like squirrels, rabbits, which I'm going to do with this, and I can use it on deer or big game. Quite frankly, I can't think of something that I would hunt in North America where this wouldn't be enough if I'm inside of a few hundred yards. Now, if you need to really stretch it out and you need to gather a lot of light and detail in low light scenarios, maybe you elk hunters who hunt in dark hills, I could understand why you would go with like the 6-24 Vengeance or some of the other ZeroTech models. If you're going to stay in the trace line, the 4-24 is an excellent optic. I really enjoy that one. But I could see why you would go out to some other optic from there. The hunting capability of an LPVO is not going to diminish most people's hunt. It's not going to diminish mine. And I actually think I prefer it, being able to keep it low, small, short, compact, footprint, lightweight, and still have so much of the internal capability for when I come to the range and plank or practice. I could take this optic off here, throw it on an AR, and go out to 1,000 yards, actually 1,000 yards plus with just a 20 MOA rail. So this is not going to inhibit you, is what I'm trying to say, in a hunting rifle. I know all my other friends are probably doing reviews on hunting or on tactical or precision-based platforms, and I decided to be the weird guy who put it on a bolt action. But to be honest with you, there's nothing weird about it. It's very, very practical. All right, let's talk about the reticle a little bit. I'm not going to be spending a huge amount of time here, but the reticle is very important. It is the thing you are going to stare at inside the optic. You can have great exposed turrets, illumination, a nice form factor on an optic, but if the reticle sucks, a lot of times it's just not worth the money, no matter how good the image is. Something about this reticle is it does not suck. It is a good reticle. This reticle is thick enough on 1 power, which is what you're looking at right now. You've got that center dot. The stadia are going to disappear as they should on 1X, and those horizontal and vertical lines come together very nicely, pretty close to the center, which is what you want to see in an LPVO to direct your eye to the center. If you need to take a quick shot, a moving shot, you still have that center dot. And with the illumination, I'm going to go ahead and turn on illumination if I didn't kill my battery. There we go. With illumination, it is going to be pretty efficient, especially in lower light settings. On a bright day, so today's pretty bright, you'll fight it a little bit, but I can still see it. Actually, with the naked eye, it's quite comfortable. And that center dot on 1X looks to be pretty true. One thing that ZeroTech will advertise is that this has one of the widest field of views available, maybe the widest field of view at the time of publishing this, available for an LPVO or a 1 to 10. And I'm really happy with a 1 to 10 that can do this much for a field of view. It feels very comfortable. The edges feel very comfortable. The bezel of the glass there feels comfortable. I don't think I get a lot of tunneling effect when I go from 1 to 10 power. That was one thing I was curious about, and I don't feel like I'm getting much of that. No optic is perfect, and optics have to be optimized around certain powers and uses, and the reticle has to be optimized around certain applications. I think this optic does a very good job, a very, very good job of getting a good 1X in general. Something I need to comment on is my camera is focused only on the center of the image. It is not focused on the edges, so yes, they look like they're blurry, but that's not going to be the way it appears to your eye when you're looking through the scope. When I look through the scope, the edges of the glass are still pretty decent on 1X and 10X. They're not perfect. I see some minor distortions around the extreme edges, maybe like a little bit of a yellow line at the very extreme edges, but I'm not getting chromatic aberration with this optic. I'm not getting weird color fringing. I just haven't noticed anything in the last 6 or 7 range sessions, so I feel pretty confident to say that it's good to go. And each of my range sessions, by the way, tends to be around 10 hours. I do quite a bit of time 1 day a week, sometimes 16-hour days for my range sessions. It can be a long, long day of filming. All of that to say, I want you to have some confidence that yes, the illumination makes sense. The reticle works on 1 power. It's not distracting with a huge amount of illumination throughout the stadia. It's that center cluster and that circle, which really grabs my eye. It feels a little bit like closer to a red dot experience, although you can never replace a red dot. It's closer to it. So I'm pretty satisfied as a person from Minnesota who hunts in green vegetation. Typically early morning, late evening is when I would use illumination, or maybe in some sort of tactical application. That's something that you would need to consider. Let's go ahead and bump up magnification a little bit. And I'm just going to do the numbers that are on the optic. Now you're looking at 2 power. That's an indicated number on the magnification ring. At 2 power, you can already start to see a little better. When I put my eye through there, it's not going to quite look like this as it does with the phone. It'll be a little bit closer. Numbers will be a little bit bigger. Actually, on 2 power, I can start to see the stadia quite a bit more, and the illumination does appear, it appears brighter. It's not actually brighter, but appears brighter because I'm increasing the size of that reticle. Now, as I go up to 4 power, I'll need to reposition my camera, so give me just 1 moment. Now on 4 power, you're getting a really good feel for what part is actually illuminated and how that reticle works. It's a nice thickness. They did a really good job of keeping the parts that need to be thin and airy open. And then also on 4 power, I can use this for relatively close shots and quite a bit further shots. I can start to make out the reticle decently at 6 power. When I get into 6 power, the eye box is going to change just a little bit more. Let me change my phone angle so you can see better. But man, what a crystal clear image. Really, really nice job on the image and the stadia. I'm a huge fan. At this point, I think even you on your monitor or your phone should be able to pick out that you can see the numerical pattern here. You're going to have even numbers across the horizontal, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. The 10 being the last identifier for windage markers. And that needs to get really close to those chevrons so that when you come in, it all kind of centers up nicely together. It grabs your eye. And so those lines go right out to the edges. It does not have an 11 indicator, but from what I could tell, the tip of the bottom-most chevron would probably be about 11 mils, somewhere in there. But technically, there's 10 that you can count on the Stadia for hold over. There is some negative hold without numerical indicators there. Most of the time, that's not important for me, and especially on an LPVO. I don't need numerical indicators on the reticle for negative hold on LPVOs. I might like it on certain high power magnification optics, but for an LPVO, just not important for me. You can see how bright that image is, how bright the actual illumination is, and that's full illumination, by the way, which is the only thing I'm really going to show you here in this review. Now we're on 8 power. 8 power looks very good. Again, the image is so bright, it is so sharp. This is a very crisp optic, and the numbers are easy to read. If I'm shooting and I'm spotting for someone, I would be comfortable using this out to some pretty extreme distance, even on 8 power. And you guys have seen me shoot 1-4s at 1,000 yards. I've shot on 3 power with some optics at 1,000 yards. Depends how dry it is out there, but it's possible. So all the more with an 8 power optic, I could shoot this really far, and I could probably even spot my misses in the dirt or in dust with this, because it does have a great resolution. The reticle is still very optimized. And then here's 10 power. I would say the eye box is fairly forgiving. Most of the time on 10 power, I'm going to be planted somewhere, whether that's a rooftop, on a bench, in the prone, off a tripod. And I feel very comfortable shooting tripod on 10 power. The eye box is fairly forgiving. The reticle works well, and I don't feel a whole lot of sensitivity behind the scope on 10 power. Obviously 1 power was really, really nice. I go back to 1 power, that's what you're looking at. That's really nice. I mean, it's awesome for close shooting. I don't feel funky. I can shoot with both eyes open on 1 power, but bringing it back up to 10 power, see if my phone will behave. Bring it back up on the 10 power. This is basically what I'm used to shooting on lots of ZeroTech's scopes. It's right around 10 power all the time. I could do a lot with this. I can hunt with this. I can do fairly precise shooting, as I've demonstrated with this, because of that center dot. And then I pretty much could do all forms of plinking, hunting, maybe some competition, 2-gun, 3-gun, that sort of thing, with a reticle like this. Okay, so when you have maxed out your illumination, that's what's going on. Now I'm going to just turn it down and off. So illumination being a button might concern you, but I find that you have to be pretty intentional to press this illumination. It doesn't seem to get activated in my bag. You do have to give it a good press to get it on. And that's something I like. I think they did a good job with the amount of force it takes to turn on the illumination. It's not awkward, it's pretty silent, and compared to like a stepless illumination, I probably prefer this. What you're looking at here is actually a 6-shot group at 110 yards. So I zeroed my 300 blackout with SIG 125 grain OTMs. Really like that round. Seems to do pretty decent in that rifle a lot of times. Usually I shoot about 3/4 inch 5-shot groups. This one happened to be, fairly tight. This is actually 6 shots. There's 5 in here and 1 over here. I knew I should have stopped with a 5. I started getting some mirage off my can. And with a 1 to 10, typically you're not going to get a lot of mirage, so it's just a touch. But I did throw one over here, whether it was a mirage or my nerves, probably my nerves. But anyways, 5 shots about under my fingernail. It's really tight. With an LPVO, it's not necessarily going to hold you back from getting really tight groups. It's all about your steadiness and your consistency. That reticle definitely helps me. I was able to put that reticle right on here and get a good center hold. I saw plenty of detail. 10x is kind of perfect for target shooting for me. That's what I like to do at 100 yards. And then beyond that, it's a nice precise hold. You will be able to distinguish a lot of detail in your targets and what you're aiming at, as well as get a good center hold on this. So that target itself is probably an 1.5 inch circle. And then my 5 shots, my 6 shot is still sub MOA. Will a 1 to 10 hold you back from shooting tight groups? Not really. Will lacking a parallax hold you back? Well, as you get out further and further, there will be some issue with that if you're going for tight groups. But if you're just trying to be consistent, you're trying to hit targets, hunt, or maybe a tactical application, I don't think it's going to hold you back. And it's certainly not going to hold you back from getting a really tight zero, even compared to a high-powered variable optic. I'm pretty excited about that. shooting 300 blackout. 300 blackout is just sub-optimum for performance. A lot of times beyond 100 yards, it does fall apart a little bit with most calibers, most barrels. Just doesn't shoot the best, but I'm really happy with this. Both these groups, that's right at 2 inches. So that's a little bit sub-MOA, so shooting at 215 yards. And this looks like it's 1.5 inches. So that's sub-MOA. On a windy day, I'm very pleased with that. I just wanted to show you that, yes, that optic can help you perform well. I was able to hover that black dot inside of here. Generally, I could see a little bit of red on the edges, and I knew where to favor, where to hold. It was plenty precise enough, and still the contrast was there. Lots of contrast, even against this dark cardboard target, could stand out on the red. Very happy with that performance. It's not going to hold you back, guys. You can still shoot tight groups even without a side parallax, especially with an optic that's configured this well. Really quick shout out to Anarchy Outdoors. They make things like the bolt knob, the bolt handle, which have kind of a improved lever and design, angle, all that feel. I really like the Anarchy Outdoors bolt knobs in general, if I get my camera to focus, and the pistol grips that they have. Reduced angle grips are very important to me for a lot of builds, and I run the Penguin, the Alpha, the Tuxedo grip. All of them have been really cool, durable, and I just think aesthetically they look good. All right, here's a little experiment. I can't remember where these hit at 220 yards, so I've got some guesses. Yeah, I really have just some guesses. I don't know. So what I'm going to do is shoot at 220 yards at about a 10-inch target, I believe. It might be an 8-inch, I can't remember. But anyways, I'm going to shoot that target, and I'll see where my misses are or where my impacts are, and I'll try to make corrections using the reticle at 220 yards, which is a very practical distance for a 1 to 10. Let's start right here. So judging by that impact, it seemed like it was just a touch low. It didn't seem center exactly, so I'm going to come up just a touch. Just trying to read the plate and the swing of the plate. It looked a little bit more center. Let's hit it on the swing. Yeah, that seems pretty center. At least it would be a kill shot. I feel very comfortable with that. With that reticle, man, it's just so perfect. The donut size works really good for practical application targets, and that's something that is valuable to me for, again, the cross-platform concept of going from bolt-action hunters, maybe SBR hunter-style little bolt-action snipers that are really popular right now. That's something I'm definitely going to give a try in like a month. And then also ARs. It's hard to beat how good it looks on an AR. It's just a really purpose-built optic, and it looks good on defensive carbines, 308, AR-10s, that sort of thing. How about that 4-inch target? Let's see what happens to that one. So my data must be reasonably good. And look at my group sizes at 200 yards. My groups were all sub-MOA, so it's not too surprising to hit a 4-inch target because I was shooting sub-2-inch groups. Well, I'm going to start wrapping up this video. This is not the only video I'm going to have for this. I've just been trying to shorten up my videos a little bit. People don't have as much time, it seems like, to watch a 30 or 40-minute video, and honestly, they'll miss details. They'll miss some of the action with this optic in the rest of my shooting experience if I try to cram it all into one video. So I'm just going to do this one shorter video for an intro and kind of a first look at the optic. Do I recommend it? After 600 rounds? Between the AR, this, and the 22, well, it's at least 600 between all three. Probably 400 centerfire rounds at least through with this. I'm having a very good experience so far. I find that 1 to 10s are kind of a sweet spot. As long as they're done well, you can still shoot them really far. You can still shoot this one very close. Remember, it's got one of the best 1 powers on the market for a 1 to 10. And I like the experience with ZeroTech. They put in some good effort to design products in a way that people actually use them. Instead of kind of being off in the ether somewhere with these radical designs that people come up with for reticles or for features that nobody uses. I find that ZeroTech tends to be a very practical company. On the hunting end, on the competition end, the things that they design are actually designed well. They're thought through well before they hit the market. They don't really use the market as a test bed. They think about it, and they get a lot of feedback, which is something that they did with us. A lot of us who are reviewing this, we got these out early. We got a chance to get hands-on and see what we thought of them, think about them. And they just seem to be receiving well from the feedback, user feedback. Not every company does that, so I appreciate ZeroTech very much. I appreciate the price point, the design, and the fact that this optic can replace, for me, a much bigger, heavier optic on a lot of my rifles. Still capable, still has insane internal travel, has some of the features that I practically do use and need, and I think it looks pretty good. If you don't like the way it looks, you probably won't keep using it, right? This one looks pretty good aesthetically. And so I probably will have this on a couple other builds very soon. I'm working on some other projects right now. In the next video, you'll see it on either an AR-10 or another Bolty or another auto gun that I haven't released yet, I haven't discussed yet. But this optic is available right now. So if you want to maybe watch some other videos, go ahead and search it right now. I've got a handful of friends who also got one. You should watch theirs, see their application maybe on gas guns and less of the hunting mindset, more of the long range application perhaps, or you can hold on for a little bit because I will be taking this out past 1,000 yards. If you like this video, go ahead and like, share, subscribe, and maybe watch one of these videos that's been handpicked for you dealing with some more ZeroTech optics.